Welcome to part 19 of Rishi the Movie. This time we're going to focus on Jack West's role in Patton West's criminal racketeering gang, cult, whatever you want to call it. Jack has been there for a long time, a long time. I put up a website about Patton West and what she was doing in Montana. And I had an email from an old friend or acquaintance of Jack West going back to the 70s and 80s. And he basically said that Jack was his business partner at the time, but he and Devra West defrauded him out of $10,000. But he described Jack as a weak-minded man that had no experience with women, and that Devra West was soon running him. And that's true, because Devra West has been running him ever since. Now, the purpose of this part of the movie is to show the public and the FBI and the police what liars they all are. They're just pathological liars. And we'll get into some of Jack West's lies as we go along. On the screen now, the email that Jeremy Samuelson sent me. And as you can see, he describes Jack West as I did. Then we move on to Satya. That was in 1991. She was at the Robert Jaffe School of Energy Mastery with Patton West, and Patton West defrauded her out of $6,000. Now, on the screen now is an image depicting the statement that Jack West posted on Patton West's website in 2007. 2007-2008 time span, when Patton West was having a bad year. Jack West's statement from start to finish was a total pack of lies, as will become very obvious by the time you get to the end of this part of the movie. And so we'll break down his missive at some point, but first, I just want to run the contents of a bulletin which describes Jack West's role in his not wife, because they got divorced, role in her criminal racketeering business model. So following the screen along, I think it is fair to describe Patton West as a psychopath, and indeed a super psychopath. And I believe any psychologist worth his salt, once they look at the evidence against her, will probably agree with that opinion. FBI take note, Jack West, accomplice in 30 plus years of racketeering. Well, it's a lot more than that. It's 35 since she gained her secret weapon and became a terrorist, but Jack West was involved way back in the 70s. Go back and read Jeremy Samuelson's email to me. Up next on the screen, some data about Patton West, myself, Jack West, and some of the crimes committed around me or to me. And crimes that Jack West, well, he didn't warn me about the crimes in 2002, just that I would be murdered if I went public. Next up, Jack West told me in 2002 that those who opposed his wife had a habit of dying suddenly. Those implies two. There's Joseph Costantino, Lisa Swidler. There are 2 attempts on my life. I reckon she's got 5 to 7 murders under her belt, and she hasn't been interviewed about a single one, which poses a question, does she have a license to kill? Because she's being ignored by the FBI and law enforcement. On the screen now, statements from two senior cult members, Jack West and Geoffrey Reynolds. Jack West, 2002, you will be murdered if you go public. Geoffrey Reynolds in 2007, Watson will be dead within 12 months or in jail for reacting to what Patton West is going to do to his wife and children. And more recently, Patton West admits to murdering several for the good of humanity. Up next, the living bullshitter. Lies, mountains of lies, deceit, obviously to facilitate fraud, but she's got away with it for 35 years. She's also got away with promising enlightenment for money, and nobody's been enlightened. Loads of lives have been ruined, some are dead, and probably scores or hundreds subject to terrorist attacks, but nobody has become enlightened. And here's Patton West's A-team. You can look at the statistics above. They don't care about the statistics. They love it that this woman knows so much about the occult that she can manipulate, control, injure, make ill, murder others with impunity. That's the attraction, to be able to sit at the top table and fund and market a serial killing psychopath. That's obviously what makes them buzz. And as stated elsewhere, Jack West is not a reverend of anything. Jack West doesn't have a PhD unless it's the one his wife gave him. And as explained elsewhere, Patton West claims her 2 doctorates were given to her by the Christ in person. Yeah, and she's holding open the gates of time. Let's not forget that one. The bare facts are that Patton West sees herself as the apex predator and that anybody beneath her is game, basically. That's it. The image on the screen makes it very clear. Yeah, this was the revocation certificate striking off Montana Charity, January 2004. And that made the Sacred Archives Institute null and void, but not a problem. The next day, the Sacred Arts Institute was born, and it just goes on and on and on. Here's another copy of Jeremy Samuelson's email to me that was posted on in this part of the bulletin. Again, Jack West is not a doctor. He's a con artist, like his wife, ex-wife. Here's one of the social media postings Jack West made in support of his wife, the self-appointed planetary regent, the mother of 10,000 sons, and the person who has been preparing to guide humanity for thousands of years. And there's Jack's status to the right. You can't see the strings, but they are there. Just links to websites and newspaper articles. Now here is the top 2 paragraph of Jack West's statement as taken from a website. We're going to break that down at the end of this part 19 in some detail. That just shows it was from Patton West's website. And I believe the date's at the top. If not, it's 2007 for sure. Yes, she remains as utterly free of wrongdoing and as ethically virtuous as any person can be. Can you actually believe that he wrote that? But, maybe he didn't. Maybe Patton West wrote it and just posted it under his name. And here's some of the ethically virtuous and no wrongdoing things that she didn't do, but did. Yeah. You got to laugh. There we are. And this is the tip of the iceberg. I mean, 95% of her victims, whether it's stealing from employees or students or individuals or businesses, 95% of them choose to walk away empty-handed because they don't want to die. They don't want to become the subject of terrorist attacks. Yeah, she moves up down to Arizona, and of course the same thing happens as happened in New Mexico between 91 and 95, Montana between 95 and 2010, and for the last 15 or 16 years in Arizona. Yeah, Jack West knew all about the murders. As I said, he warned me about it in 2002, and I can tell you that people inside the cult seemed to understand what would happen if they went too far, as happened to Joseph Costantino and Lisa Swidler. That is why when Patton West defrauded Hendrickson out of $200K, he didn't go after her. When she defrauded Dave Kushner out of $30K, he didn't go after her. And when she kidnapped, held captive, beat and extorted tens of thousands from Marion Cantwell, she didn't go after her. I wonder why. And as I've always said, it's a crime family. Make no mistake about it. May not look like it from the outside because it's all cloaked in a spiritual disguise, you know. On the screen now is a copy of an email that an Andrew George, a former cult member, sent to my lawyer in 2007, basically admitting that she was forced to make false statements about me on pain of being fired by Patton West. Apparently, the March 2003 meeting that we had didn't go the way Patton West thought it was going to go. And so her reaction was to go back to her compound and call her employees and students together and basically tell them they must manufacture false statements about me, which Patton West intended to use in court. This is what criminals do. I make that distinction because there may be somebody out there who still thinks this is a guru. Yeah, Jack West knows that murder is a tool that Patton West uses to silence dissent. Jack West told me in 2002 that meaning him, Patton West and their daughter Anna West were chased out of New Mexico in the middle of the night by one gun-toting victim who knew that the police and the courts were going to be totally inept at trying to deal with somebody like Patton West. Yeah, apparently what really undid Williams and Coffin in 2021 was Patton West defrauding the US government out of, I don't know the number, I think it was $150,000 or $500,000, I don't know, but the fraud apparently happened. And Williams and Coffin realized that unlike all the scores or hundreds of small victims that Patton West picks off that can't afford to file lawsuits against Patton West, they realized that the US government could spend millions to recover $100, so they jumped ship. But it's not going to do them any good. The crimes are so huge and so long-lasting. And there's more about the murders or suspected murders on this page. We know that it is something that they just assume is going to happen at some time. Why else would Reynolds just calmly announce it to the reporter as though it was a done deal? And this is what sets Patton West apart from all the other crime bosses, mafia bosses, serial killing psychopaths. The weapon she uses is not regarded as a weapon under legal statute. Therefore, Patton West not only gets away with murder, but dresses up in her king-size bed sheets and yards of curtain material, pretending to be an Indian deity of some sort. And as Adolf Hitler said, if you tell a big enough lie and tell it frequently enough, it will be believed. And that's what she's been doing for 35 years. Next up on this page, I make the point that multiple murders are going to be hard to prosecute. However, there are scores of victims who were not murdered but were made ill or injured by Patton West's occult weapon, aka terrorism. And I go on to talk about some of the victims that I know about that were harmed or hurt by this weapon, or in the case of Joseph Costantino and Lisa Swidler, quite possibly murdered by that weapon. Yep, then halfway down this page, we get the welcome that was put out in some small community in Arizona, probably close to Sedona, basically saying, we don't want Patton West here, we don't want this guru, we don't want this person in our community. Signs going up everywhere. There are also some videos made of the signs all over the community. And there are links to several websites there, two being ours and 5 others belonging to other people. 1 or 2 may have been taken down now. Maybe they got tired of being targeted 24/7 by Patton West. Most people do get tired of it. So at this point, I would recommend viewers go to our 2 websites, URLs up on the screen now, because Jack West has his own web page and you can mix and match and see what the other members of the cult have been doing for the last 35, 40 years. And Jack West has been throughout that time present. He basically recruited me, or attempted to recruit me, into the cult. I joined a meditation group up the road. He was running it, and the next thing I knew, I was a consultant. The next thing I knew, I'd been defrauded, like scores or hundreds before and since. It's like a conveyor belt. The crime is on an industrial basis. So now, Jack West published this statement in 2007. Or 2008, when we get to the bottom, the date will be on the bottom of the statement. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, we have, 20 years nearly of hindsight. We can now look at Jack West's statement. Jack West, like his ex-wife, is a pathological liar, a Satanist, so they invert everything, including the truth. So really, everything you want to know about Jack West is contained in the following 2 statements. One from A.J. White and the other from Jack West himself. On the screen now, the first page of A.J. White's statement to me, notarized statement that was used as part of my lawsuit against Patton West for fraud. In the red arrowed highlight paragraph, we've talked about this already, is the $80,000 donation stolen from the charity and used to fund Patton West's son's legal fees. Although what his legal fees has to do with the charity, well, we know what it is. The charity isn't a charity. It's basically a front company for Patton West to money launder the proceeds of crime, some of which ends up funding her son's legal fees against his wife. Moving on to page 2, the yellow arrowed area of that penultimate paragraph, which basically states that Upon having a meeting the following day or whenever about Patton West's vicious assault on Susanna Felder, at the meeting was Jack West and Anandra George, both brainwashed and conditioned members of the cult, and both who denied Patton West's assault on Susanna Felder. There's a long pattern of this. In court, Patton West denies assaulting Cole, even though she has a written statement up on the web where she admits that she had assaulted Cole and she was going to the masters in her head for their opinion on her actions. On the screen now, some of the answers that Rebecca West gave in court while being questioned about the assault on Cole, which of course Patton West denied in court. No way, no how, whatever she said. Like I said, they're all Satanists. Lying is the standard response to any question, basically. And because they've gotten away with it for 3+ decades, they seem to think that they're invulnerable and there's going to be no consequences. Well, now looking back, we can add it all up and see that this was just a big crime family headed by Patton West, supported by Jack West for 3, 4, or 5 decades. And then an assortment of other individuals, including her son, who obviously served an apprenticeship under Patton West herself and has spread out. I'd also remind you that Anandra George was the one who sent a letter to my lawyer basically withdrawing her fake testimonial about me, which Patton West had demanded that she and other members of the cult manufacture false statements about me that Patton West intended to use in court against me. Facts do not cease to exist because they're ignored, so let's have a look at another fact around Jack West and his ability to lie pathologically. So on the screen now you have one of the postings of Patton West that she put up on her website. Basically what she's doing here is denying all the crimes she's committed and basically blaming the victims. So we have the Labour Board rules in Dr. Devra West's favour. Well, Patton West is not a doctor, unless you agree that you can issue yourself 2 doctorates and say the Christ gave them to you, and that makes it official. Court rules to dismiss bogus assault case. Well, it wasn't a bogus assault case. Patton West admitted it elsewhere, then denies it. IRS finds no irregularities in Dr. West's tax returns. No, because she got the shredder in and had employees shredding all of the incriminating evidence. Millennium Mine dispute with John Watson. Basically, she's accusing me of defrauding and extorting her. Financial records refute all accusations. Yeah, her financial records, the ones she stitches together to make a story that has no bearing on what's happening in her compound, in her front companies that are used to money launder the proceeds of organising crime. Then she has a summary at the bottom. She writes all this stuff and just posts it. So up on the screen now, we have 2 excerpts, one involving the denial that I had won of my court case against her, and the next one denying that Cole had won her court case against her, Patton West. Now we get to Jack West's big lie. During my court case, I basically had to prove that I was an employee consultant and there were agreements and there was a relationship. And I produced details to prove that. And one of the pieces of information evidence was the letter from Jack West to the INS. the Immigration and Nationalisation Service, as it was called then in 2002. Jack West wrote to them on my behalf, basically acknowledging that I was employed. I was employed on a salary, it was fixed, blah, blah, blah. It's up on the screen now. And then when this was produced in court, Jack West, when he stood up to give his version of reality, he said that I, Watson, had basically forced him to write this letter. Well, my lawyer stood up and said, you are aware that this is the INS we're dealing with, and if you are found to have made false statements to the INS, it could result in a 10-year prison sentence. Jack West quickly agreed to withdraw his statement. This cult, these liars, this criminal organization has used these tactics for the last 35 years. And we're talking thousands of acts of terrorism. We're talking about 35 years of racketeering. We're talking about multiple murders. And we're actually talking about Patton West admitting murdering several for the good of humanity. And yet she and her gang have not been rounded up yet, but that is coming soon. Now let's have a look at the treatment of myself briefly. I'm just one victim of scores or hundreds of victims of this criminal racketeering gang. Now on the screen now, we have the natural order. And this is how Devra West views reality, and Jack West as well, because he's been aligned with her for 50 years. Coffin has been aligned with her for 30 years. We have Williams, 21 years, and we have Reynolds, 8 years directly involved. But I suspect that Patton West is going to be influencing Reynolds' lives and the others' lives for the foreseeable future. In my case, the threats didn't work. In my case, the terrorism didn't work. The defamation didn't work. 2 attempts to murder me so far have not worked. But what they did, having failed to intimidate or murder me, was to do what criminals do, and that is they end up buying the law they need. So in this way, Patton West, realizing I'd probably run out of money, having moved abroad in 2005, when I appeared at the appeal hearing, I was served by Patton West and a stooge Reynolds, who'd only been on the scene very shortly, for a short period of time. Reynolds alleging I defamed him between 2002 and 2006. Well, he didn't join Patton West's outfit until September 2006, so how did that work? Liars, 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 a criminal gang. Then when I don't turn up and they get the summary judgment for $10 million, $5 million each for an undefended summary judgment, they then package it on the screen now, Rishi's legal win. They package it as some gigantic win, and then they produce all sorts of images and lies on their website saying that I had been found guilty in some cyber scam that the judge was looking into. Got nothing to do with reality at all. But again, these liars, they get away with it. Now, as you can see on the screen now, this piece entitled Judge Exposes Cyber Extortion Scam Against Rishi Devra, it's a total lie. It's a total fiction. It is just propaganda to keep the criminal racketeering business model going, make it look like the biggest criminal in the US at the moment is in fact the biggest victim, and that of course is not the case. But Williams has signed this piece, and Williams sent me that email threatening me to pull out in an attempt to intimidate me into pulling out of my lawsuit against Patton West. These aren't employees, these aren't friends, this is a cult, a criminal gang. And they've been doing this for 35 years. And Williams is a total idiot for putting his name to this stuff. And I can't wait to see him in a criminal court answering for his crimes. But this is about Jack West, the longest term serving cult member, gang member, 40 or 50 years at Patton West's side, basically supporting her with lies, with all sorts of crap. Nobody calls them on it, at least until now. So you have a cult criminal gang led by Patton West with 4 senior cult members, all who have agreed presumably to lie, or in Coffin's case, lies of omission. She doesn't say anything while observing all the crimes happening for 30 years, including the big one against me that she was directly involved in. So you've got all these liars, and then we appear in court. The court listens to all their lies, and then for some inexplicable reason, it refuses to acknowledge the information my lawyer presented, which was a recording of Patton West admitting everything. Now, I've talked about this before, so I'm not going to go on about it anymore, but the FBI should look into why that very important lump of evidence was not reviewed by the judge and included in his decision-making process. Well, the obvious answer is that it would have shown Patton West to be the career criminal that I'm presenting to you now. I mean, it's just, this is the same evidence that was available in 2007 to 2010 timeframe when I was suing her for fraud in Montana. Well, I won the fraud lawsuit, but when it came up for the appeal, the judge refused to review that information, which not only proves that she set out to defraud me and admitted it, didn't see herself writing out a check for $50,000, it also gives information, incriminating information about several other serious crimes she committed. Anyway, as I have stated previously, the court legal system is like a game of tennis. There are 2 opponents lobbying their arguments backwards and forwards. There's a judge set up high on a seat, and there's a racket involved. Now, it's for the FBI to determine where that racket lies, not me. I'm just sharing my experience of that process. So let's get started. I'm going to do it by paragraph. That's the way to break it down. Statement for Dr. Devra West, Soraya Ma. Okay, this was Devra G until her charity was struck off for fraud in 2004. Then she became Soraya Ma. When she was forced to leave Montana, she became Rishi Devra. To all who value the truth. There's the first line. My name is Jack West. As a previous board member of the non-profit Divinity and Sacred Arts Institute, I offer my statements to refute the despicable and unfounded accusations that John Watson has made about Devra West Soraya Ma. Now, I would say that every statement I have made about her has turned out to be true, and I have the facts, documents, legal documents, newspaper articles to prove it. Jack West goes on. Even though I am her ex-husband, I am stepping forward because I am outraged that he has orchestrated an implausible raft of tabloid-style allegations based solely on his own malicious scripting of trumped-up gossip and calculated deception. This is the same Jack West who told me that I'd be murdered if I went public with what I'd learned while working there as a consultant. Jack continues, there is nothing in his account of Dr. West's circumstances that bears any resemblance to the truth of a situation. She remains as utterly free of wrongdoing and as ethically virtuous as any human being can be. I encourage you to visit our rebuttal site. Well, you're on part 19. If you've come this far, you'll know that Patton West has no ethics. Patton West is a vicious, violent criminal, a murderer, a terrorist, who has been racketeering under the authorities' nose for 35 years and getting away with it. Because if she goes into court, civil courts, idiots, liars for hire like Jack West, they will turn up in their droves to lie for her. Next paragraph. The truth of Watson's malevolence. Watson's entire psychotic slander campaign smacks of a modern-day Salem witch hunt that has been deliberately plastered all over the internet. Again, portraying her crimes onto her victims. Basically, Patton West is a psychopath. She's criminally insane. But Jack West is trying to make my use of the truth of her crimes as some kind of Salem witch hunt. I mean, these people, again, Patton West is probably writing this for him. Going on, he understands extremely well the power of a calculating character assassination combined with small-town prejudice as well as well-crafted malicious gossips. For years now, he has lied to state and federal authorities. He has also lied to Dr. West, Soraya Miles' entire constituency of students. All of that is untrue. It's a total pack of lies. I haven't done anything to, I have done stuff to state authorities. I wrote to the Secretary of State for Montana in 2003 after I was constructively dismissed and defrauded and told him what was going on. Now, that was the truth, and he acted on it and struck off a charity straight away. But again, all the lying, the character assassination, the well-crafted malicious gossip, that's what they do. I've given examples of it in the previous 2 or 3 parts to this movie. It's what they do, but they cloak their crimes, or try to, onto their victims. Despite his schemes to line up his entirely fabricated sources, whose accounts he has personally orchestrated and even authored, he will fail in his demented charade. Again, this is, shades of Patton West in trials saying her employees were fabricated and fictitious. Jack West is saying the same, that the students and employees who gave me these statements are basically fictitious. He is in it for the money and his sick need for self-aggrandizement. I'm not in it for the money. Patton West is in it for the money, that much is clear. She's basically acquired, I reckon, since 91, probably between $30 to $50 million in theft, fraud, extortion, embezzlement, you name it. So, and as for self-aggrandizement, I'm not the one with 20 or 30 titles. I'm not the one that changes my name every time I move state to hide my criminal past. His accusations of Dr. West are solely projections of his own reflection himself. Well, that's interesting because I have a couple of parking tickets. I have a couple of speeding tickets. Apart from that, I have had no interaction with the police or the courts whatsoever, except in regard to the lawsuit I issued against Patton West and the frivolous lawsuits that she and her stooge Reynolds issued against me. That's the truth. Those are the facts. So up on the screen now, briefly, a newspaper article announcing my win in court against Patton West, who defrauded me in 2002. This statement was posted in 2008, and next door are the 2 pleadings from Reynolds and Patton West that they used when I appeared at the appeal court hearing in 2010. They basically manufactured frivolous lawsuits knowing I probably couldn't afford to defend them, and that's what happens. And then Patton West passes that into some kind of gigantic victory against cyber scam and a victory for women and a victory for Sedona, all this crap that she spews out non-stop. In the next paragraph, Mr. Watson, a former consultant to the non-profit that sponsored Dr. West's work, attempted to quickly position himself in control of the organisation, her assets and her capacity of talent and genius. Again, Patton West is not a doctor. She's a con artist. If she's a doctor at all, it's because of the 2 fake doctorates she awarded herself and then told her students that Jesus had given them to her in person. As for me, attempting to quickly position himself in control of the organisation, her assets and capacity of talent and genius, I admit that Patton West has a genius for crime. She's incredibly evil. That's why I refer to her as the birder. A birder is someone so evil that they would do things that even the devil wouldn't do. That covers Patton West's genius. As for me quickly trying to position myself, for the 6 months I was there, I was fed data every day by Patton West as to what she wanted this new way of doing banking, altruistic way of doing banking. All the diagrams flowed from her, all the work. But as I realized later, it was just a track for me to run on while she tried to brainwash and condition me into joining a cult, handing over my wealth and becoming a brainless droid of hers, like Williams, like Coffin, like Jack West for half a century maybe. From the moment he saw her prolific potential for large financial support, he set his course to execute what was literally a hostile takeover. Hired solely as a consultant and nothing more, his arrogance drove his immediate scheme to assign himself a virtual swath of unauthorized privileges, entitlements, as well as unauthorized job positions and titles, entirely outside of the normal procedure and absolutely outside Dr. West's knowledge and legal authority. He scammed everyone present until the criminality of his agenda was found out. He also since falsely assigned his cohorts titles and positions that never existed and were never held to make his character assassination sound credible. I don't know where to start with this except to say it is a total pack of lies. And once again, Patton West is projecting her crimes, her personality, her evil nature onto her victims. At least Jack West is saying I was hired solely as a consultant and nothing more. And yet Williams and others refer to me as a student. I was never a student. That was the plan of Patton West's. But I was never a student in spite of all their efforts to persuade me to become one of the students. So here we are, assign himself a virtual swath of unauthorized privileges. Well, that's what Patton West does. She, all these titles, all these fake identities, all these miracles she's performed. I read somewhere early on that she walked up the top of Everest or some mountain and somebody broke their arm and she alone ran down the mountain to get help. I mean, this woman is mentally ill and a present danger to the public and everybody else around her. That includes her poor son, Rob Meader, who has got very ill and she's taken over his trust fund, so I hear.
It doesn't matter what is actually true.
Because Dr. West was out of the country for the majority of his 6-month consultancy, he was able to get away with it. We regret failing to immediately expose and expel him at the first signs of unethical abuse or professional boundaries. There are many among Dr. West's supporters, including myself, who now deeply regret that she has taken the full brunt of our neglect to recognise his debauchery far sooner and have him arrested. Many of her long-term supporters distanced themselves due to the gossip and slander that Watson perpetrated at first behind the scenes and later in a full-scale rape and plunder of her reputation. Her first, can't read that line, and then fans them into bonfire of full-scale accusations as if the self-authored fabrications are true. If anyone is the victim of this situation, is Dr. West, and anyone who thinks otherwise has been grossly misled and used as a pawn in his game.
It doesn't matter what is actually true.
So we have this wet blanket, Jack West, basically sycophantly describing how his ex-wife, his guru, the leader of his criminal gang, what he's saying is that others have been misled if they've been exposed to the truth. When really the whole point of Jack West's statement and her website full of lies, propaganda and BS is to mislead everybody else into accepting that this woman is capable of delivering enlightenment for money. You can't deliver enlightenment to anybody. Nobody can do it. Enlightenment comes as a result of friction through a lifetime, which hopefully is converted into wisdom. Patton West is a criminally insane narcissist living out her illusions at the expense of everyone she comes into contact with.
It doesn't matter what is actually true.
But Jack West is trying to persuade everybody. This is mainly aimed at the members of the cult who have been exposed to the truth. His role is to character assassinate me so that Patton West's lies can be their truth. And of course, I'm a big problem to that. What I don't understand is this. Patton West says it doesn't matter what is actually true.
It doesn't matter what is actually true.
In other words, if she can persuade the public that her lies are their truth, that works. But if I'm actually telling the truth, then it matters enough to launch a campaign of defamation, a campaign of terrorism, and 2 attempts to murder me. So if it didn't matter what was true, then why all of this negative reaction to the truth coming out? On to the next paragraph, the truth of the financial accusations. It is Dr. West who worked 7 days a week for a pittance of a salary that was often not paid at all, solely to uplift and improve the lives of others. I will add that her meagre salary and alleged lavish lifestyle that Watson claims was ill-gained came directly from her own personally generated finances and an enormous generosity to the Divine Unity Sacred Arts Institute or organisation in the first place. What Watson refers to as the charity is in fact an organisation that was founded solely to advance and further her work. It was run primarily on her own money. Again, this is a total lie, and it's an inversion of the truth. Patton West didn't generate any income from her intellectual property. It was basically a load of ramblings from the drug addict mind put into word, and then using her occult weapon, a terrorist weapon, she sucks people into her cult and then basically empties their bank accounts into hers. And then those that stick around, she uses as unpaid or low-paid slaves to further her work. And if you've come this far, we're in number 19, you'll see that her work is racketeering, terrorism, murder. That's Patton West's work. The charity was a front company for organised crime. Basically, I wrote to the Secretary of State and shared what I saw, and the charity was struck off immediately. Patton West didn't blink an eyelid. She just changed the name of her school and moved everybody to Shambhala, 100 miles north. I guess Jack West would say that was a lie, but Shambhala turned out to be Lakeside, Montana, and only those who had committed 66% of their net worth to her good causes herself were allowed to come with her, Dr. Cole being one of them. Now, to counter Jack West's lies, I'm going to play some audio recordings from Kathleen Francisco and maybe others, depending on the space. This is getting quite long, but these statements refute everything that Jack West is saying, but then we know Jack West is a pathological liar, so no surprise there.
Did you always get paid on time?
I always got paid on time. Whether the checks were good were a whole nother issue. The funds were not always available in the account, and it's gotten worse.
All right. Whilst funds were not available to you and maybe other employees, I know from my time there that people had to wait 2 or 3 weeks in some cases. What about Devra West's lifestyle in the house?
Oh, she lived very extravagantly. Yeah, she ate only gourmet food, expensive food, which had to be hand selected, an extensive amount of wine, which she consumed 1 to 2 bottles a day on a daily basis, every day.
And is your experience of this that this was all paid by the charity?
Yes.
Yeah.
She stated many times that this is the way the masters wanted her to live.
Okay.
And that she deserved to live amongst beautiful things.
Okay. So you were the house manager that was trying to coordinate the house all the time and keep her in the fashion she'd become accustomed to.
Yes. My job was to keep Devra happy. If Devra wasn't happy, nobody was happy. Devra, Anandra, and Esther Michaels. They performed some type of a ceremony.
Which was?
Session thing. Ritual. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cult activity.
So your opinion would be that she's running a cult.
Yes.
And using mind control to dominate the membership, if you like.
Oh, yeah.
And is there evidence that she's trying to extract money from the membership?
Oh, yes.
And what have you seen, and what techniques does she use?
The most recent technique was for her birthday. They were drawn up a tiny little check that was blank, that was made out to the celebration of Devra's birthday, and they were to state how much of the check they were going to make out to Devra.
Wow.
Yeah, to Devra, not to the family. No, it was it was in celebration of Devra West.
Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. I would come to work and see evidence of fits of rage of Devra during the night, whether she was fighting with people maybe on the phone, or Anandra or Jack at night, or whoever else was a house guest at the time. Her closet could be ripped apart. Things were thrown against the wall in her room, broken glasses, just things in disarray. I came to work one time and saw evidence of maybe Devra had fell against something. Yeah, she had a definite gash on the side of her face. Were you there at that time? Yeah, and she said that she had slipped and then she couldn't remember. And me and Diane and myself mostly made the judgment that she had been drinking and had fallen probably down the stairs.
Wow.
Because of the amount of drinking and not sleeping can wear on one's mental capability.
Jack West continues, I was involved from the very beginning of the non-profit when her work was first recognised internationally as being of major significance. Recognised by who internationally? Again, this is all lies, bullshits and propaganda to exaggerate Patton West's vision of her own reality, which is all delusional. That's why in her blurb she uses such phrases as world healers and leaders. I mean, obviously, she wants to give the impression that world leaders care about her opinion. They don't. There are no world leaders she's ever interacted with. It's all lies. I suspect the same is true of world healers, since anybody who can heal can recognize Patton West's aura as being demonic, not uplifting. He goes on, she gave 80% of her self-earned livelihood from her teaching activities to the non-profit and its projects for over 10 years. There were no teaching activities other than the SAIs, the Sacred Arts Institute's biannual meetings. One of those was held at the compound, wherever that was, either Victor or Lakeside, Montana, and the other was held abroad, aka Montreal, in 2002, when Patton West viciously assaulted Beatrice Maguire in front of tens or scores of witnesses, then denied that it happened, but paid her plastic surgery bill after partially ripping her ear off the side of her head because Beatrice called Patton West out in a lie. And what does a psychopath do when they're caught out in a lie? They attack. It's visceral. They don't think about it. It's just how they're wired. To be clear, Patton West had no income outside the cult, unless it was from fraud, extortion, embezzlement, theft. That's why she was always extolling the cult and her employees to donate to her good causes. And she wasn't very subtle about it. Sometimes it was a bit more than a request, a bit more than persuasion. Sometimes terrorism was involved to force people to give money to her. An example of that is on the screen now. Dr. Cole, a brainwashed and conditioned member of Patton West's cult going back as far as New Mexico times, so somewhere between 91 and 95, Cole joined her cult. And after Patton West's charity was struck off for fraud, Patton West didn't blink. She just said she decided to move to Shambhala because the vibrations are higher. Shambhala being 100 miles north on Lakeside, Montana. Anybody wanted to come with her have to give 66% of their income, which obviously Cole agreed to do, whether directly or because of the continuing relationship, it was obvious she was going to have to pay a large premium at some point. Patton West got tired of waiting and so started a campaign of overt violence against Cole, basically to persuade her, to coerce her through the use of terrorism, to give up her entire net worth, which amounted to signing a home over to Patton West, giving all her cash to Patton West, and cashing in her IRA to give to Patton West, and borrowing $50,000 from her aunt to give to Patton West. And as you'll note from the newspaper articles in 2007, the first being the Whitefish Pilot, the second being the Big Fort Eagle. At the time, Patton West was in court on July 12th, telling the court that her businesses were billion-dollar affairs. On the very same day, the Whitefish Pilot news editorial about Patton West's crimes in the Bitterroot went up, showing that she was close to bankruptcy for the second time, and that she had a lien for unpaid employment insurance against her. So, I mean, Jack West is a pathological liar. All of these statements you're making are just lies. However, amongst the lies, there are some interesting statements from Jack West that are going to come back to bite Patton West. He goes on to say she was the driving force, financial backbone and sole viability of the non-profit, despite the organisation's professed mission statement to finance and administrate her work. Yet when Patton West appears in court or is asked to appear to be deposed by my lawyer, she's saying, oh no, I had nothing to do with it, that they were supporting my work or supposed to be supporting my work, and they didn't do a good job about it. So you can't have it both ways. I know what Patton West is like. She's a total autocrat, and she admits it. But Jack West, there we are, lies, which he may not have written. She may have written it and just published it in his name. That's how it works. Jack West goes down to the bottom of that paragraph. That was our sole mission statement. We were her sponsor, and it was our job, not hers, to run the non-profit. She's probably writing this to distance herself from all the crimes she's committed. And either Jack West went along with it because he's a weak-minded man who was quickly overrun by Patton West. Either he just goes along with it, or she writes it, posts it, and he doesn't complain about it. Again, on the screen now, Watson fails to mention the cost of running the programs, many of which were student projects. Again, a lie. All the projects that happened there were Patton West projects. She was a control freak. I mean, she admits it. I'm not going to replay that again. He goes on, instead of providing the active financial and administrative support that she deserved, the non-profit ended up sucking her dry and mismanaging her hard-earned money. There was no hard-earned money from Patton West, none whatsoever. All of her income came from the cult, other than rip-offs, theft, fraud, extortion, embezzlement from outside entities, and that included defrauding the IRS, state and federal governments. She gave the organisation many millions of dollars via proceeds from her teaching activities and resigned in January 2003 with a large debt being owed to her in unpaid wages and loans. She resigned absolutely empty-handed. Lies. Basically, where are the millions of dollars she gave? A forensic accountant should be able to find all this money that she said she gave, but again, it's all lies. Whilst she was milking the cult and her employees and students for every penny they had, she was laying down false invoices, which she then used to steal the charity's main asset, which was the property at Fredburr Road, Victor, worth at the time in 2004, $1.25 million. Next paragraph, the truth of the Montana Retreat Center. Yes, Patton West did steal the property from the charity. It was the main asset. It was worth about $1.25 million in 2004 when her charity was struck off. What Patton and West had been doing for a number of years prior to that was basically depositing totally false, fake invoices with Cheryl O'Brien, her finance director person at the time, basically building up the idea that Patton West was loaning money to the charity when she wasn't. Her income came from the charity. The idea that she was off teaching all over the country is just lies. It's just delusion. Again, Jack West, this is probably written by Patton West, but she's throwing everybody else under the bus, including Jack West throwing himself under the bus, if he wrote this, which I seriously doubt he did. Here, Jack West continues to fall on his sword. Notice how everybody is trained like obedient dogs to deflect blame away from the master manipulator, Patton West herself. And right at the bottom, he uses the word grace somewhere, grace and dignity throughout this degrading circus act orchestrated by Watson. Well, if telling the truth is a circus act, then I plead guilty. Okay, the truth of Watson's greed-driven scam. Just pause the screen and read this rubbish. Again, everything they are accusing me of are their crimes. All I've done is publish details of their crimes. So there's no point in commenting any further on that. He brought absolutely nothing to the table in the way of relevant expertise or C capital. We suspected that his mental instability went far beyond his obvious obsession with self-aggrandizement within a few months. Again, I'm not the one with 20 or 30 titles, the one that says she's been preparing to guide humanity for thousands of years and all of that nonsense. Next paragraph. Oh, I really like this one. Again, the beauty of looking back into the past, one has 20/20 vision. We can see who has said what and who has done what. So here we go. Jack West, or whoever wrote this, probably Patton West, says that I have made a full-time job of making threats, fabricating slander, and demanding money each step of the way, along with his cohorts for whom joining his attack campaign offers an easy monetary windfall. And so it goes on and on again. This is an extortion scam, plain and simple. He has threatened Dr. West's life and threatened anyone who gets in his way, from family members to employees to personal and professional constituents. Absolutely none of what this person is saying is the truth. Now we look back. Jack West warned me I'd be murdered if I went public in 2002. Reynolds informs a newspaper journalist that I will be dead within the next 12 months or in jail for reacting to what Patton West is going to do to me, my family members. There have been 2 attempts on my life so far by Patton West, one in 2007 and one in 2023. And right at the bottom, this idiot, whoever wrote this stuff, Watson saw Dr. West's genius as only a cash cow waiting to be milked. Again, everybody that came into contact with Patton West was a cash cow that she intended to milk, whether they wanted it or not. The woman is a parasite. Next paragraph. Cult accusations, no cult exists. Well, again, with a decade, nearly 2 decades, decade and a half of hindsight, let's see how Jack West's lies stand up. The statements that Mr. Watson offers here are so far-fetched, I hardly know where to begin. He screams cult leader with glee. I don't scream particularly with glee. Full well knowing the power of attention-getting sensational branding, I assure you that after one of Dr. West's conferences was over, blah, 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 blah. Patton West screams with glee. Patton West likes the power of attention-getting, sensationalist branding. Have a look at her well, you can't because her websites have been taken down. Jack West, or Patton West, if she wrote it for him, continues at the bottom. From the start of his sordid extortion scheme, he threatened that he would use the cult branding tactic to get a payoff. The cult story has no basis whatsoever. Moreover, Watson knows he is lying. Well, I know I'm not lying, and it's obvious Jack West is lying. As for extortion, in this part of the movie and every other part of the movie prior to this part of the movie, I show some of the crimes committed by Patton West. They include theft, fraud, extortion. Then there's the violent assaults. And then there's a whole class of other crimes that nobody knows about that goes on behind the scenes. So, cult branding, that's the truth, Jack. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's the truth. Assault accusations, the remarkable truth. Dr. West, well, Dr. West isn't a doctor unless you count the 2 fake doctorates she gave herself. And she gave one to Jack West, who also calls himself a doctor. So anyway, on with Jack's statement. Dr. West has maintained incredible focus in order to continue to move the profound significance of her life's work forward. Her life's work is crime. Her life work is money. Her life work is racketeering. Her life's work is terrorism. And her life's work seems to be multiple murders as well. Jack goes on, he has fraudulently framed her up time and time again. Hello, there are, 50, 60, 70 statements from ex-employees and students, all talking about Patton West's spite and violence and duplicity. Is Jack suggesting I orchestrated all of those? Interesting. And what about all our appearances in court, mainly as in fraud-related lawsuits as the defendant? Have I anything to do with those? No. Jack, it doesn't add up, especially with 1.5 decades of hindsight. Oh yes, Dr. West has never pled guilty, nor has she been found guilty of assault. The claim was part of the scam and it was dismissed by authorities, period. Again, a total lie. Patton West offered no contest, which means that she was found guilty. The fact she didn't go into court and say, I did it, doesn't make a jot of difference. But these are the lies these people spin, mainly for the benefit of members trapped in the cult, but for the community in which this parasite is embedded as well. The absurd claims trotted out by Dr. Cole. Dr. Cole lost everything, her home, her net worth, and borrowed money from her aunt to give to this insatiable parasite. And she had a severe beating, probably more than on one occasion. But this slimy little snake here is trying to project Patton West's crimes onto Dr. Cole. I'm not saying Cole was a moral person, but let's stick to the truth. Oh, down the bottom, the truth will prevail, this test of discernment. Oh yeah, 1.5 decades later, the truth is coming out big time and it isn't going to stop. The truth will prevail, this test of discernment, Jack says. Her light cannot be touched and her goodness will not be lessened by Watson's venomous promotion of hatred, prejudice and persecution, aka the truth. Dr. Devra West has suffered enough. Yes, he's angry, blah, blah, blah. I'm shocked that anyone who believes the sick web of deception that Watson and Cole have perpetrated, well, I wasn't working with Dr. Cole. What employer, project, enterprise or organization can function under these circumstances? Oh, Jack, you are evil. You know that you are part of a cult. It's not an employer, it's not a project, it is an enterprise worthy of RICO attention, but it's a cult. And it's a great way to keep secrets, isn't it, if you're a criminal? Only someone of Dr. West's caliber could carry on in the midst of this outrage and still stay focused on her service to others. There's been no service to others for the last 40 or 50 years. She's a fraudster, a thief, an extortionist. She preys on others, service to others. It's just a big joke. She is an example to us all. This is why she will endure. Respectfully submitted, Jack West. What can you say? Except thank you very, very much, Dr. Jack West, for your statement. I have no doubt it will help sway a jury. Thank you very much. Now, coming up next is part 20. We don't know when we'll publish this online. Let's wait and see.